Hey guys, back this week with something a little bit different. It's going to be a production lesson on how to produce the perfect sounding 808. The 808 is an ubiquitous sound in pop music. It's basically like the electric guitar of the modern day. And I think it's essential that any producer be able to make really good sounding 808s if they want to make a mark in the modern pop music industry. Before we get going, be sure to subscribe to this channel and drop a like on this video. This channel is going to be covering everything about music, and I mean everything from classical to jazz to contemporary pop. We're going to be looking at production techniques, music history, album reviews. So make sure to give me a subscribe. I promise you, you will not regret it. And with that, let's get into how to make the perfect sounding 808. All right, guys, so here we go. We are gonna look at 808s, and we are gonna look at two ways I think are really the best way to do 808s. One is you can do it with samples like that you get off Splice, and I'll show you how to really kind of fine tune those samples so they sound great. But I actually employ two methods when I'm doing this. I'll take a sample if it makes sense, if it is better for that track. And again, I think every producer knows that every track is different. So there's different kind of 808s you're gonna want for different kind of stuff. Some of them are gonna be more distorted, some of them are gonna be cleaner. So it depends on the track, but I do both methods. And the methods are, I'll take a sample, like I said, or I'll build it straight out of a synthesizer like Massive. And I'll show you how to do that. Let me just get into what exactly an 808 is first. I think that'll give everyone a better idea of what we're dealing with. So let's go here and sort of show you what we're working with. So first, let's just look at what it is. And all right, so here we go. I'll tell you what we got here. We got a Lex Luger sample from Splice. So that's the exact sample right there, 808F Crunk. So anybody who wants the sound can go get that. It's totally royalty free, public domain. I am not hiding anything from you guys. I'm not trying to be some godly producer, not going to show you all the secrets. This is the sample right here where it says file, where my mouse is scrolling. So let's get into what this is. Oh shit, sorry about that. Okay, here we go. Sorry, the zoom on Logic is weird. All right, so let's start off by just going into what this is. I don't know if you guys can, or I know you can see this, but I'm not sure how many of you out there know what this is. Some of you probably do and are producers, some of you don't. So I'm just gonna get into it and say this is a sine wave. In electronic music, there's a bunch of different kinds of waveforms that are often used. There's triangle, square, sine wave, and this is a sine wave. And you can tell because of the smooth edges that are occurring here, the rounded edges that go on and on and on. And so the point of this is to say an 808 kick, the way we think of it, is two things. It's a sine wave, and then let me show you what it is at the top. And at the top, and this is kind of weird, like you can see all of a sudden, here's the sine wave, and then, oh my gosh, it is not a sine wave. And what is this? It is kind of weird looking and this zoomed in, but it's a transient. It's a sharp attack, a high-pitched sharp attack transient, like almost the sound, in a way, not quite, but almost if you're a drummer, you know when you hit a snare drum, it's that crackly high thing. So it's that. So basically, in essence, an 808 kick drum is a sine wave with a sharp attack at the beginning, a sharp transient, yeah, rather. So that's what that is. Again, I didn't make this sample, but this is the Luger sample, and you can see, so it's just, so we're already learning what it is if we want to create it for later. Sine wave, sharp attack at the beginning. Okay, so that's what it is. So let's get into what kind of I did here to make this all work. Okay, so obviously it's a map to the whole keyboard. That's nothing too crazy. And I'll be honest, because this was a sample I got off Splice, this is not modified really too crazily at all. I'll just show you that, I mean, as you can see, I don't have it going through any filters at all. Down here though, important to note, it has obviously, I mean, again, this depends on what kind of music you're making. If you want to make a sort of psychedelic, whirly kind of thing, you can change the attack here. Obviously, I have the attack is at 0. It's as quick as it could possibly get. It's just right on, boom, and it comes in. But I mean, you know, you can do anything with music, and it depends on the track. And 808s are a very versatile instrument. So, like I said, I don't know if I said at the top of this video, but it's kind of like a modern electric guitar, in my opinion, in terms of its sort of relevance to modern music. So you can, and electric guitars are versatile, 808s are versatile, you can do anything you want. Obviously I have mine set to a quick attack because this is kind of going to be more used in a trap style, but again, music is free and music loves to explore, so you can do whatever you want in that regard, and it'll be more psychedelic sounding if you do a slow attack. Okay, so anyways, I'm going way too far on the attack. So quick attack, and as you can see, the release is, I have it set to about 10,000 milliseconds. I think I'm saying that, I'm wrong. I know that that's literally 10,000. I should probably know this because I'm an audio engineer. I've done professional work, but I think it's pronounced differently. But the release is 10,000, so it's kind of a sort of longer release, but not really, because you want a little bit of tail on an 808. That's the sort of thing, and we'll get into it. I'll play you an example in a sec. You want a bit of a tail on your 808 because it gives it that sort of sexy quality we all love. Again, the sustain is at max. There's no drop off here. Decay, again, decay and sustain are sort of not relevant here because we got a flat surface here. Audio engineers and synthesizer people will know what I'm talking about. There's no drop off at all here. It's just a relatively moderate release. And yeah, again, I don't hide anything from you guys, so you can just take these exact settings, take a screenshot of this picture, and for the mods, and do whatever you want. Yeah, and I'll scroll up. Yeah, again, I don't have it going through any filters. I'm not doing anything to it. I believe that as far as this is just this is the standard when you open the Logic synthesizer. It's not the EXS24, it's not called that anymore, but I didn't do anything here at all, I believe. So yeah, we want to just a little preamble about what a 808 is and what I did to get this sound. And I better play you guys the sound because you probably think, why are you doing all this? Are you even good? Well, I'll let you guys decide. And here's just the 808, 808. When I say 808, the kick, the low, the bass, the thing we think of when we think of 808s. So I'll play this. Got the metronome going, sorry. Oh, sorry, I should have looped that for you guys. Get a little bit Eye of the Tiger by accident. I just had to think of something kind of quick to demonstrate what I'm doing here. So not the best, and I'm going to get into the drums in a sec too, because that's kind of important to the sound. Not the best example musically, but wanted to do a little demonstration, so that's what it is. And all right, so that's what that sound is just from the sampler. And now I want to get into the effects I have here, just to give you guys what, in my opinion, you need to get for good 808 sound. And as you'll see, I have a fab filter. I do have some filtering on it. I just chose not to do it within the sampler itself. So first off, sausage fattener. I think every producer has this. If you don't, you should definitely get it. I think it's $9. Data Life is great. I mean, they have this other little plugin that kind of emulates, it's kind of passe now because EDM is kind of over, but they have a little plugin that simulates a build-up for you if you don't know how to do all the crazy filtering and automating that you need to do that in like an old dubstep thing. So that's great. But this is their main one. It's the sausage fattener. It is a compressor that I use on not everything, but a lot of stuff, especially stuff that needs to be intense and in your face like this. Like this, and I think as we all know from how music is today, you want 808s to really punch and stick out and be really aggressive and pretty compressed. Not pretty, like incredibly compressed. They're just like, in your face. So this is essential. Not too much to this plugin. Fatness and color gain. And if you'll see, I don't have the gain set too high, but this is where my settings are for this. Okay, so that's that. And now I'm gonna get into the filtering I did here. So if you don't have this plugin, obviously there's a ton of filtering stuff out there, both free and paid. This is just what I use. I love FabFilter. Their products are great. So let's take, which band should we look? Okay. What should we do first? Okay, so here's sort of like, you can kind of see it divided by where I've chosen to put the regions, but this is the sub-ish area of the 808. I have sectioned off here in the Saturn, and basically what I've done to this area is I think I might have even used no, it's not a preset. Sorry, that's just a setting. I basically have less drive. It's driven you'll see, because this is driven a little bit harder, and I'll tell you why in a sec, but I have the bassy part of the region emphasized because this is an 808, and we want to get that booming, sexy sound that everybody loves. So that is what I've emphasized that a bit. I've de-emphasized the sort of low mids of the low section. And yeah, and I've kind of rolled off the treble to basically 0. I don't want to get rid of it per se on this session, but I don't really want to emphasize it because that's going to be taken care of over here. Again, so the second band I have driven quite a bit more because, again, part of the 808 sound is that top sound I talked about in the beginning, that hard transient that when you boom hit the first thing you hear. And that's usually not as loud as the rest of it because the majority of the sound is this boom and then the leveling off. So what I just did here for this is I just took, in terms of the whole sample, I just emphasized as best as I could, that higher section that you only hear in the beginning. I gave it a bit more prominence because, and as you can see, it's there really is kind of only two layers to this thing. You got boom and then everything else. So you got the sub thing that everyone loves, and then you got basically everything else, the mids, because the mids, and again, that hard transient really only appear kind of briefly. And I mean, obviously every sound is pretty dynamic, and well, every sound can touch multiple frequencies, but this 808 doesn't, 808s are 808s. They are what they are. We're going for low bass. This is a bass instrument here. So this is just to compensate, give that little transient, that extra little push at the beginning. I think let's hear this without that. Right, still pretty good. We have an 808 sound here. And in fact, some people might prefer this. It's a little more softer. And then you can kind of hear the, so this is more wum. Now maybe it's not that obvious to everyone, but to my ear, I hear more of a wang. I'm kind of getting more of that mid and low mid kind of popping out, and the thunk at the beginning to my ear. This is just to my ears, and I mean, as an engineer, I'm hearing that a bit more. More I'm hearing. I get that which is more important than you think, because it's funny, like when you hear an 808 on the radio and in a song, you think, oh, it's so low, that's what's really doing it. And that is what's doing it, but you need to emphasize, I think, some of the upper harmonics in the sound to get it to not be so muddy, and still give it that sort of rigidity, give it like borders or something, give it a little extra juice so that it doesn't just become a mushy low thing that's at the bottom, that's covering the sub frequencies of the mix. Because I think that's the main thing people have a hard time getting their 808s to sound good, is because yes, it is a sub bass instrument, but people still need to be able to, when they are listening to a track, differentiate out the different hits of different notes, because it's a bass instrument. It's playing a bass line usually, and yeah, that's my advice. I would just say with every sub kind of instrument is, don't get lost in the subbiness of it. You want to emphasize some upper harmonics, and some of the this part here, the upper parts you don't think are important, will actually help define the sound and sort of shape it out in a way that makes it more, you can hear the texture, the definition of it. So that's what I do for filtering and compression. And yeah, that's my sound that I do with sampling. One last thing, I have a little, that's pretty bad. Also, it's pretty, that hi-hat pattern is pretty boring as hell. That's not something I would put on a professional mix. But again, I just want to show you guys, there's one key thing here in this that is important to the 808 sound. And let me just solo it. So here's my little Nate 08 little kit I made and stuff. But there's one thing, here we have a kick layer. It's not a full-on kick, because you can hear this kick has a tone to it. And this one too. These have a note in them, even though they're technically kicks. This is as far as I could get with some of the work, like stuff I did to this sample, there's no kick in the sense that this is not a kick, this is just a layer. This is just that transient I talk about. And basically what I use this for, and let me solo this so you guys can see them together. So without it, this is still pretty defined, but oftentimes in trap or any kind of pop stuff today, the 808 is not just the bass line, it's not just the bass line, it's the bass and the kick, which is why it's such a unique and interesting instrument to me, is you're now having the kick drum basically play the bass line. But when it's doing both things like that, sometimes the kick part of it, the sort of percussive kick drum aspect of an 808 can get lost. A lot of people I find have that problem. So again, I have emphasized that opening transient a bit through filtering out some stuff, or filtering, emphasizing, boosting some stuff, if you will, on the fab filter. But the last thing I do is I add this layer, this kick layer, like and I call it a layer because again, it's not the whole kick drum, it's just that transient of that I add another transient to it. Basically, I basically, I'm having verbal diarrhea here, but basically I just double emphasize that opening transient so that it's balanced between bass line and kick drum, and it sounds something like this. Right? So the thing is with this, I find, is that you hear it, it's got that perfect balance. I hear the 808 note, I get the punch of the kick drum to keep the track moving, but the kick drum does not get in the way. I don't have that, like the rest of the low tone that a kick drum has that would clash with this and muddy it up and basically just screw the whole thing up. You wouldn't be able to hear it. And yeah, if I put these two together, we got this, right? Right, again, this is not mixed. This is not, again, and that line is very eye of the tiger. But yeah, that's basically how I would do it sample wise. And yeah, I would go ahead and I will say that, let me just see what I did with this kick layer, because I'll give it to you guys. Right, so this is a Lex Luger kick pink. I don't know what for kits that's from. I think I did some stuff here. Okay, so yeah, I did do some stuff on the volume envelope. Yeah, the release I moved away. It's like that release is really quick. There's not a lot of gurgle. There's not a lot of sound left over. I cut that thing off pretty quick. Let's see, did I do anything else? No, it's no filtering. Yeah, so that's what you're gonna want to do. Just emphasize that transient and sine wave, let it decay, let it release relatively medium length, and you got an 808. Keep working it. You're gonna have to work at it for a bit, but it does get the job done. One last thing I want to point out though, I don't know if you guys can hear it, but there's a bit of detuning going on at the tail as that audio tail comes down. There's a right, there's a bit of detuning, and the thing with that, and I believe that's from the compression, I think from applying the sausage fat, and that's making that more prominent. You do want a bit of that, I think. You want a little bit of detuning on the way down, because I can't, and this is, I'm a musician, I'm classically trained, I'm an audio engineer, I should know why this is, but for some reason, when there's a bit of detuning, maybe it's the thickening element of it, but when there's a bit of detuning at the end of the tail, it somehow makes the song pop a lot more. I can't explain it. The only thing is through knowing how synthesizers work, there might just be some sort of thickening thing going on with that detuning, but try to get a little detuning going on your 808. That'll give it a little bit of life. So that's the main way I do it. I use like samples and don't do too much stuff. But there's one other way I want to show you guys that you can sort of create your own. And I might have, let's see how I know I have one in Massive that I use a bit. Let's do mono, because bass should be in mono, kids, just so you know. Get your bass stuff in mono. Okay, so, okay, perfect 808. All right, so let's see what this. Right, so this is, if you can hear that. This is a different kind of vibe going on here. Right, it sounds a little ridiculous in the upper range, but like, right? So again, like I said, every track is different, and every 808 you're gonna need is different. So this might be something I would use for like an Ariana Grande type thing if I was working with someone who was doing kind of that. This isn't, it's pretty aggressive. Well, it's not aggressive, it's pretty smooth, and you're still getting that transient, but it's not as aggressive like you would have on a trap track. So I'm just gonna show you real briefly what I did for this one. Okay, so here we got a square saw on oscillator 1. We have a sine square on oscillator 2, and down an octave, down 2 octaves. And we have a bit of detuning going on here. These are the wavetable positions. I mean, I can explain all this, but I think the video is getting kind of long. So I'll just let you guys take a screenshot of this. Do as you please. But yeah, this is kind of what I have going on here. We have a low pass, serial. We're not going parallel through both, kind of going serial 1, then 2. Let's see what else we got going. Anything on the L levels? Okay, all right, so I want to show what's going on. Again, so a little bit of a shorter attack going on here in all the, little bit of a longer attack going on here in all the envelopes. Nothing too crazy, not like super long, but long enough. I think maybe I did this because it was a little harsh sounding. But yeah, you can create an 808 inside of like Massive or Serum as well. I mean, this is the way I did it. Let's see, we have it's on Spectrum on both, right? Wavetable positions, I have the sine square, over here, I have this here. Let's see, they're both, well, I will say, and this, I'm looking at this now, I should have mentioned it, makes sense. The, obviously the square is a little quieter than the sine wave, because as we established, 808s are sine waves. And I think I have the square wave in here to give it that little, and you don't really even hear it, really. You don't hear any kind of, like square wave sounding stuff in the mid, like a mid-range sounding square wave, but it's in here enough, I think, that it can go wild. You can kind of hear it. It gives it that extra bite. Again, 808s are kind of deceptive. You do need like some mids in there. But yeah, so that's all. That's how you do an 808, you know. And this is I'll show you guys one more time. I think it was a Lex Luger, Lex Luger 808F Crunk sample. You can get that on Splice. And just do a little compression over here, and throw on a filter, emphasize the lows, and emphasize the lows, kind of cut out the rest of the stuff on there, and then give it a little bit of a boost on the high to get that kick thing, and then just double emphasize again with like a kick layer, and you're golden. So I will see you guys next time for another production lesson. Peace.